Hey, leave him alone.
It's a tough world out there. And it's getting tougher all the time.
Well, it's an idea I had when I was 12 years old. When I was a kid that loved movies, and I always fantasized about what movies I would make in my fantasy career. And this was one of them. And I'd seen John Boorman's movie Excalibur, and I'd also seen E.T., and I loved the idea of combining fantasy with reality. And I thought, well, why not? Why has nobody made a movie where a normal British kid, like a British version of Elliot, instead of finding an alien, finds the sword in the stone? So that was an idea I had when I was a kid. And the amazing thing about the legend is, however little or much you know about it, these indelible devices stay with everybody. The sword in the stone, the lady in the lake, the round table, Camelot, Merlin. Even if you don't know the details, everybody knows these 5 or 6 incredible story devices. So it struck me that you could put them in modernity and come up with something fresh and new.
The heart of the story, there's a lot of things I could say, but the main thing is the fact that it's in a modern context means that an audience watching it suddenly go, my God, this story really does matter, and this story really could be me. You know, you're suddenly put in the shoes of Alex, drawing the sword out of the stone, thinking that this really could happen. And I think it has a huge impact on what that means in terms of honour, and also the laughs and the responsibility and all sorts of things like that.
I think they would very quickly be irritated with me, because this Merlin, he's a little confused at times about what's going on. But I think he's... I think I might be the youngest Merlin in London at the moment. Oh no, I'm not. There's Angus, isn't there? Yes. Well, the youngest old Merlin.
It was a 4-hour transformation every morning of beautiful, intricate. Connor, the special effect guy, and Shannon, the makeup artist, layered these beautiful root systems. We built Morgana into a tree. So this is where we start, where she's been captured in this grotto, and it's become her way of living through the tree and the root system. And then she breaks loose, and as does hell, really.
So Alex, you know, he's the soul of this film, and he goes on this journey to save Britain. And I think what I like about Alex is that he's determined and he never gives up, which is quite special. Yeah.
Well, I play Merlin the Wizard, who, of course, has been around for maybe 1,000 years, and we had an idea that he pops up at history when he's needed most. And the reason he's unique and brilliant in this story is because he's suddenly placed into the modern world. So all of his ancient mannerisms and amalgamation of history is all brought into the modern era, where he isn't interested in cars and any modern technology. He cares about what's of the earth, and the fact that the sword's been drawn out of the stone. He's far more essential and elemental than the modern world, and it becomes a sort of real clash of different cultures.
Badass is this super young, innocent child who's excited in science fiction and all these stories, and he has this love for education as well. And he's very loyal to his friend Alex, who's the main character in the film. And so he goes through all these different hardships, and he becomes a really true strong character.
Hello.
My character Kay is this strong, tough female character within the film, but she's also the school bully, along with her partner in crime, best friend, Lance, who's played by my co-star Tom Taylor. And even though Kay is this strong character, she does have this underlying sense of vulnerability about her, which I think is really important, as it goes hand in hand with the fact that she's a bully. And she does progress emotionally throughout the whole film, which is also very important because it changes her to become Lady Kay, very loyal and noble to her king, Alex. So I think that her change is very important in the whole film, just saying that people can change for the better.
Lance is the bully at the beginning, and then he kind of becomes knighted by Arthur with a bit of perseverance, because he doesn't really believe it. He just wants to get involved in all the fighting and stuff. But then later on he sees like the actual pure side of things, and not just the sword and the glory at the beginning.
If it's more fun to play a villain, it depends. It's always finding the interesting part of all characters. I don't think we're all villains or not. I try, and when I played Morgana, I feel I have to find her pure and her goodness, do you know? it's easy to think a villain is a villain and simplifying it. And I know for Jo, he said, I just want to make her a villain. But from an actor's point of view, she believes her right. It's her birthright to be the new ruler of England. And the time has come where the world is rotten, nudge, nudge, just saying, and it's her time to conquer it all. You know, I embrace the goodness in her.
We knew we needed a new sort of magic because everyone's had enough of pointing wands and saying Latin things. So I figured it would be good if he manipulated the elements, if the way his hands moved in thin air actually created physical effects. So we devised this thing called hand magic, which is gestures and rhythmic snaps and crackles and pops that he uses. So all the magic in the movie we wanted to make feel like a physics experiment. So not like spangly Disney multicolored fairy magic, but like physics experiment magic with explosions and dust and sneezes and body fluids and physicality so that it felt real.
I don't really know where it came from. I think so much of it was on the page, and then I just got so excited to be able to play it, and that idea that he's expanding out of his own body, you know, because he isn't hung up on all the sort of modern worries or anxieties about how you look or how you behave. He's just being who he is, and he's so connected to the fire and earth and wind and water. So it's that to me is how he performs his magic, as sort of maths through his hand gestures. So I think just taking inspiration from that and being as free as you could, that was how I wanted to make it. And I also think he sees everything dancing in the world through his eyes. Everything dances.
There was a range of ages from the youngest Dean to like Patrick Stewart, and it was a good contrast because Patrick's such a legend, and you know, and working with my other younger co-stars, it was good because we made such good friends.
Yeah, no, definitely. Working alongside with my co-stars was exhilarating. We became friends, both off-screen and on-screen. And with Sir Patrick Stewart, with his bellowing voice and this commandment, and with Rebecca Ferguson with her creepy, it was very scary and surprising.
They were honestly just really nice people. Like, you obviously think Patrick Stewart X-Men, but he was just, we first met him and it was like a bit starstruck obviously because I've seen him in all those films, but he was just a really nice wise man and like just told us things, and he was just, there was nothing like a movie star about him. He was just a nice bloke. He did give us some acting advice like on improvisation, like how that can help you with actual acting, because when you're improvising you don't really know what you're going to do, but you just live in the moment, and that's kind of similar with how you want to do your acting. Like,
I hear talk now that 14-year-olds should have the vote, and after the experience I've had with these young people in this film, I would certainly vote for that. There is too much self-interest in politics at the moment, holding on to power, increasing their power, being proved to be right. All those things I despise. And if we had Angus and Louis sitting in the front bench, I think we might have more hope for the future.
We've worked on so many different aspects of makeup and sound. I think actually my character's one thing per se, but I think what stands out for me for this film is working with this sort of the new time or today's society children. And I like the contrast that I try to maintain, and still the older version of Morgana, that her speech is still yet sort of dipped into the old English, and that contrast was interesting. So I didn't change her that much as we did with the young kids.
Having Jo Cornish as a writer and a director was an absolute dream for me, because he's had this vision since he was 12 or 13 years old. So to have someone who is so sure about what they're doing was absolutely perfect. He would give directions and I would understand them completely, and it would just be a blast. And working with everyone else, Tom, Dean, Louis, Angus, was just absolutely amazing. They're all so professional and we had an amazing time.
My main thing I'd say is his attention to detail is so superb. He really has such a clear picture of what he needs to do with the storytelling, and that is so phenomenal because he draws the best out of everyone in his crew and his cast, because he knows what details need to happen in order for the story to have the right peaks and troughs that he's envisaged. That's what's so brilliant about him.
I mean, the fighting was, as much as it was really fun, it was knackering. Like, you know, when you're doing films, you expect to be in one take. You do like loads and loads of takes, different angles. So by the end of the day, I was exhausted. Then wake up, have my banana in the morning, and so ready to go. And funnest scene was probably the lakes scene where Lance and Bedders and Louis Serkis have a big fight. That was really fun.
For me, the most difficult scene is this moment where we were getting pulled into the ground. Well, they built this real contraption which actually pulled us into dirt, and there were insects crawling in there, I knew. So that was difficult for me. But for a fun thing was the pond scene, the big lake scene, because there was so much water, we were messing around in between takes.
My most exciting, I think, was doing the final, the climax on the rooftop, where, you know, I don't want to give away any of the film, but it's such a fantastic climax, and all of us were together, and it was quite near the end of shooting, so it really felt like the culmination of something, and just it was without the special effects a lot of the time, so your imagination's bursting, and hopefully, yeah, it comes across in the film.
It was all so crazy. 2 months prior to shooting, we had intense training where we were doing fitness and stunt training and horse riding, and it was an absolute blast. It was absolutely amazing. So when we got onto set, we had sequences of choreography that we would perform, like the tree fight sequence that you see in the film, and it was just all really fun. But we did have a whole stunt team, and I had a stunt double who was absolutely amazing, and she did a lot of my horse riding stuff. But yeah, I did quite a bit, and it was really fun.
Yeah, it was a real privilege to share a part with Sir Patrick. He was such a gentleman and came along to watch what we'd been working on, the five of us, those scenes, and he was very generous and wanting to sort of bring our performances in sync, and we started to work together and speak text together and just observe each other work. I think we didn't want to, really go all out to try and make everything exact, because, as I say, we played sort of different parts of who Merlin is, but we just trusted that through observing each other we'd be able to work together. He was so kind.
This film appeals to young people as well, the generations who are going to be the future, the next future. And so these messages of being the chivalric code, being loyal to your friends and loving to them, I think that's really important to teach young kids now, so as they grow up, the world can be reshaped into a very nice, happy world.
Trust the actions of Arthur in this story, because he's a fine individual and beautifully played by Louis Serkis. What I find so appealing about this is that those children are continually having to make their own choices and their own decisions, and at times they are torn between just throwing it all up and going off and hanging around on a street corner, or saying they will do something. They want to have an impact. And that's what young people today have already been having politically. We see it every day in the newspapers. And I hope that this story and these kids will be an inspiration.
I guess the legend is about a divided country, and this is the legend. So this is in 500 BC or something, the 5th century. I always get it wrong, but a long time ago, Dark Ages. Britain is a land that's lost and leaderless, it's divided, there's no king, all the tribes are feuding against each other, so the legend is set in a divided country. And it was important for me to have that sense in the contemporary world so that I could play out the legend in the same way. And for better or for worse, at the moment, the country, the world is a little bit more fractured than it usually is, so that was weirdly apposite. And then, in terms of the kid being bullied, I like the idea of a vulnerable hero, a kid that makes it clear that he stands for good and he tries to fight for good, so he has the qualities you'd look for a leader.
Yeah, I do, and I do think it's important to show the sides of bullying, but in a light way, because you don't just want to watch a film where it's just ramming you with political points, because that's just boring. But so it kind of mixes it, and you come out of the film thinking, you know what? I think that's a good thing. I think bullying obviously is not a good thing, and but you don't go out thinking, oh, they just ram me with a load of politics. I just wanted to watch film. It's got that mixture of both, which is done really well.
It becomes increasingly so. I spend a lot of time in the United States, and we are seeing it there. There have been remarkable incidents where young teenagers have stood up, gone in front of the cameras, and pronounced what it is that has to be changed to make this world not only a better world for them, but in their generosity and in their forward looking for everybody.
Yeah, well, in your previous question, you asked me what drew me to the script, and it was the fact that this crazy world had been dropped on these normal teenage kids, and I feel like the fact that you can incorporate, or that Joe Cornish could incorporate the reality with the fantasy was so important, because it just makes people really think about what is actually going on, but in a fun and not so daunting manner.
This version of the story, it's not like your typical myth or like typical, what do you call it, fairy tale kind of King Arthur story. It's got modern things in it, and it's also got elements of old, but it's not boring. Like, you get afraid when you've made a film that you're going to watch it and you're going to think, oh, this is boring. But like, it just really wasn't. There wasn't a point in the film, I think, for anyone in the audience who was like, oh, I wish I wasn't in here. And I think that's what's different about it. All the other King Arthurs, apart from the old ones, like the recent ones, have been not very good, and this one is.
I think this film really is unique. I think it's got such heart, but it's something for, you know, for parents and children will come away with this strong sense of real joy and love, and I think it's an adventure that isn't to be missed.
Well, I want people to see that even if you find conflicts with people in life, you can make them your allies, make them your friends, and also stick to your true goal.
To be yourself, you know, don't change yourself to be for anyone, yeah.
I hope that people can see that you can change for the better, and that, you know, no matter how small or weak you feel, you are strong on the inside. So just believe in yourself and go for it. Fight for your dreams.
Well, there are some things in the pipeline, but I'm not quite allowed to talk about them. But I am in the next series of Fleabag, which is Phoebe Waller-Bridge's new sitcom, which I'm very excited about and honoured to be a part of.
I'm not aware that I've played a character older than myself in that time. I hope that's waiting around the corner. But in returning to Star Trek later in the year, the one thing that will be different about this version of Star Trek is that we have simply moved the whole narrative 20 years from when I last wore Jean-Luc's uniform. And so everything has aged, and we're, as when the series gets released, you will see things are very different from what they were. Well, it gives me profound satisfaction to hear from people what an impact my role and the series had on their lives. I've heard truly extraordinary stories about how people were affected by it, and that makes me very proud for all of us who were in it, because they were a great company, are a great company.
I have no idea. I literally have no idea. I know they're shooting 7 and 8 simultaneously. Right. And all I can do is hope that I get in 1 or 2 killer thigh moves.
Oh, Lord. We are set up with possibly 3 years of this show, so if there is a film, it's a long way off.
I literally go from one project to another feeling lucky. I'm not lucky and luckier, that's not the point. I just feel I'm embracing it all. I just came from Budapest now, where we had a costume fitting, and I had a meeting with Denny and the script writer, and I know who's in it. You don't yet, because I saw all the pictures on the wall, it's incredible. It's a beautiful cast. I'm lucky.
Mum, don't freak out, okay? Lady of the Lake, please return Excalibur.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.